Good afternoon and welcome to UB's 6th annual 3-minute thesis competition. I would like to welcome Provost Scott Weber to the stage to offer some welcoming remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. It feels so good to be here with you, and for those of you who are joining us virtually, we're loved to have you and welcome. I'm so delighted to welcome you to the 6th annual 3-minute thesis competition, which is hosted by the UB's Graduate School and Blackstone Launchpad. Please join me in thanking our panel of judges from the community for participating in today's competition and recognizing our finalists. Well done. Thank you so much. I'd also like to acknowledge this event's MC, winner of UB's first 3-minute thesis competition in 2017, and now Director of Research and Development at ACV Auctions, Dr. Phil Schneider. Congratulations. So great to have you with us. Having emceed that inaugural 3-minute thesis competition 5 years ago, I have a distinct vantage point on how it has developed. Over the years, I've seen the competition grow in scope and diversity. Each year, I am thrilled to see more and more research fields and dissertation topics represented. It's always a highlight of the year for me. Through this competition, doctoral students hone critical skills for communicating their research in terms of meaningful terms to those outside their immediate spheres. As a side note, I've always enjoyed getting to know graduate students on the elevator, so it's a modified 3-minute pitch there. And as an academic, I know just how challenging it is to summarize and explain your research impact to non-specialist audiences. I also know how crucial it is to do so. For if we can't express the significance of what we do, it can easily be dismissed as unimportant. And what we do is indeed very important and impactful. Through our research, we preserve and recover history and culture. We develop new understandings of the world. And over ourselves, we discover and refine cures for diseases and create new technologies and creative works. Sharing our research and scholarship beyond our disciplines and the university boundaries creates new knowledge, changes perspectives, and improves people's lives. Graduate education and the research are central to our identity as one of the world's leading research universities. Our doctoral graduates are scholars and innovators in medicine, higher education, engineering, and the sciences, social sciences, arts, and humanities. They, those in this room too, are the next generation of professional and academic leaders. And through today's competition, we are so pleased to learn more about how they will bring their innovative ideas forward for the betterment of the world. Thanks to all of you, both in the room and beyond, for being here to learn more about their research and support them in the 3-minute thesis competition. And congratulations to today's finalists for making it this far in the competition. Best wishes to each of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Provost Weber. I'm Graham Hamill, Vice Provost for Academic Affairs and Dean of the Graduate School, and I want to welcome you to the 3-minute thesis competition, which is a campus-wide competition that asks advanced doctoral students to present their research to a panel of non-specialists in just 3 minutes. I would especially like to welcome our audience from campus and all over the globe who are watching today over our live stream. This event is co-sponsored by the Graduate School and Blackstone Launchpad, and I really want to acknowledge a couple of people whose work has basically made this event possible. Hadar Borden, Liam Christie, Ujwal Chaudhary, Mirka Aravelo from Blackstone Launchpad, and to Sandy Flash, Elizabeth Colucci, Chris Ham, and Ali Vucic from the Graduate School. And a special thanks to all the graduate students who have participated. There's been a remarkably positive response to this event from students and faculty who recognize the importance of doctoral education to the research mission of this university. The 3-minute thesis competition was founded at the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008. The competition is now being held in over 600 countries across 600 universities in more than 65 countries. And the competition really has two main goals. The first is to recognize and celebrate the excellent research that is being undertaken by doctoral students. And the second is to encourage graduate students to sharpen their ability to communicate their research both concisely and effectively. And at UB, we all understand the importance of advanced research, which is clearly central to our mission as a research institution. At the same time, we also understand that communicating the importance of that research can be a real challenge. Most doctoral students spend their days in labs or in libraries talking with other academics, and under those conditions, it can be difficult to explain the value of research projects, let alone in a concise way. In some ways, if this were called the two-day dissertation competition, it'd be really easy to explain your dissertation, but 3 minutes is a really short amount of time. And yet, if research is going to have an impact in the broader world, it has to be communicated effectively and concisely, and 3-minute thesis aims to achieve exactly that end. Preparation for the 3-minute thesis competition began this fall in 2021 with a new 3MT micro-credential called Communicating Research to Broad Audiences, which is open to all graduate students at UB, and an additional micro-credential, which is called 3-minute thesis Advanced Practitioner, which is specifically dedicated to 3MT competitors. These micro-credentials focus on the skill of communicating research broadly and successfully pitching their research to the 3MT experience. One thing I do want to highlight is that, and I'm very pleased to announce, that our competition format has expanded to be more inclusive. UB has a number of online doctoral programs, and our students are completing doctoral dissertations at sites across the world. For this reason, we will have contestants who will pitch virtually as well as in person this year. Today's finalists were selected for the competition from the preliminary round held virtually in November. In preparation, each finalist received individual coaching from a Blackstone Launchpad venture coach and attended 3 advanced practitioner workshops. The workshops for finalists included the creation of virtual portraits, which university photographer Doug Levere took, which you can view on the 3MT website, pitch prep with Celine Cran, and preparation and slide development with Marianne Rogers from the UB School of Management. Now, since this is a competition, there are prizes. First place prize is $1,000. The second place prize is $750, and the third place prize is $500. There's also a People's Choice Award, which goes to the best presentation as selected by the audience here today and also viewing virtually, and that award is $250. On the screen, there is a QR code that will take you to the 3MT website, and there you can find the bios of our MC, judges, and today's contestants. Contestants' bios are in the order of the competition, and I invite you to follow along with us on the website. To begin today's program, Richard Kim, Assistant Director of UB's Office of Business and Entrepreneurship Partnerships, BEP, will say a few words. BEP has graciously made a generous donation to support the competition. And so, Richard, please come.
Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Kim. I'm the Interim Director of Startup Ventures with the Business and Entrepreneurship Partnerships team. I just became Interim Director last week, so that's recent. UB is an incredible base for innovation, as we're about to hear today. But as Vice Provost and Dean Hamill mentioned, for innovations to have an impact on the world, they have to reach the world. At Business and Entrepreneurship Partnerships, we help bring the promise of your research to life through commercialization. In other words, we pull up our sleeves to help you transform your big idea into a profitable venture. What does that look like from your end? It might be guiding you through the process of patenting your work, and from there, we might help you license your technology to a company who will use it to solve an existing problem. Or it could be connecting you with business experts to help you form a startup of your own. For startups, We offer a broad range of support services, including a new program called The Cultivator, where we offer early-stage entrepreneurs up to $100,000 and 9 months of dedicated mentorship to validate their idea and move forward into the market. To add a little context to that, because I know that commercialization can be kind of new for some people, over the last decade, significant public and private investments have been made to grow Western New York's startup and innovation ecosystem. The region is now experiencing the intended outcomes of those efforts. Last year, Western New York startups received over $530 million in venture capital investment, more than doubling the volume of any previous year. It's pretty impressive in such a short time. UB is poised to help continue that trajectory as we advance the next generation of great technologies and build early-stage startups, possibly ones that take root from the very ideas that we're about to hear today. Business and Entrepreneurship Partnership is honored to sponsor the 3-Minute Thesis. And to the students presenting today, I hope that someday soon we'll be sitting across the table from each other to talk about commercializing your work and possibly how you're going to change the world. Thank you, and good luck today. I look forward to hearing from you all.
Thanks, Richard. Now, I know everybody here is eager for the competition to begin, so I'd like to introduce our celebrity guest master of ceremonies, Dr. Phil Schneider, who leads an ACV auction ACV auction research and development team, and who was our inaugural 3MT winner in 2017. Phil will introduce the judges and the participants in today's competition.
Okay, let's have some fun. Welcome everyone, both here and virtually. As they said, my name is Dr. Phil Schneider. I'm Director of Research and Development at ACV Auctions, and just a few years ago, I was sitting in your seats. I am happy to be here today. The skills you learn here will translate throughout the career, so you're already a winner just by making it to this. There is a quote that I thought resonated well. Great ideas are often lost with those who can't communicate them clearly and concisely. Whether you're here finishing up your dissertation or off in the world doing research or innovating, creating companies, working for other companies, the skills you learn today can be applied across the board. Congratulations for being here. So, without further ado, let me give you some of the rules for today. So the PhD students will be presenting their research today and be judged on their communication style, focusing on 2 specific aspects. The first way, how is their research communicated in a language appropriate to non-specialists? And the second, was there one static slide that they were allowed constructive? Did it help their presentation? Did it add value to it? In addition, these presentations will be judged on comprehension. Did the audience understand the research? And finally, the presenters will be judged on how engaging they were. Did they leave you wanting more, as they so often do? We are honored today to have an esteemed panel of judges whose evaluation will help determine our first, second, and third prize winners. Our panel of judges is made up of community leaders from ranges of industries dealing with arts, communications, and finance. Our judges are experienced professionals who have mastered the skills of communicating to work in their broader audiences, and therefore they understand, recognize, and appreciate the work and effort you guys and girls have put today to get here. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to our judges. Andrea O'Sullivan, Executive Director of Partnership for the Public Good. Dr. Mary Canty, Head of Research at Garwood Medical Devices. Naja Bulden, Founder of Phoenix Innovation Group. And our virtual judge, Carlos Pina, Chief Regulatory Officer and Chief Quality Officer at the Jacobs Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember that everyone watching on our live stream today, you are also a judge. Your votes will help determine the People's Choice Award winner at the end. And now for the competition. Our finalists today represent the absolute finest at UB. And I will introduce each finalist to you, and doing so, they will come up on stage, have a step in to the left here, and once I finish the introduction, we will do a ready, set, pitch. This will give the finalists time to take a moment, center themselves, take a breath, go in that grounding phase, and then start speaking. Once you begin with your first word, we will start the timer. It is a 3-minute timer. One will be facing you, and one will be facing our audience today. Starting us off, we have Jocelyn Marshall. She will be talking about traumatic reckonings, new readings of contemporary feminist art. She's from the English department in the Colleges of Arts and Sciences, and in her free time, she enjoys rock climbing, hiking, and scuba diving. I believe Jocelyn is virtual with us today, so stay tuned. And Jocelyn, can you hear me loud and clear? Okay. Jocelyn, let's do one more mic check here, loud and clear. For us. Let's do one more check here, Jocelyn.
Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Oh, beautiful. Crisis averted, Jocelyn. Okay, we have the timer set, and on my mark, ready, set, pitch.
Silence is often considered the language of trauma, but how do we study silence? One artist of my project pictured here, Teresa Hapkiang-Cha, addresses silence by mixing mediums and challenging stereotypes. Today, she's typically described as a Korean American poet and often exclusively known for one book. However, her body of work includes many pieces outside of poetry, like performance and film, which is where this image of her smiling came from. In fact, such a glimpse from Cha's archive is just one example of how narrow categories pigeonhole women artists and simplify their work. My dissertation looks at contemporary artists with multi-ethnic backgrounds to analyze how they voice the language of trauma. Using archival research, I reveal the limitations of such pigeonholing by showing just what can happen when we do study the silence, the language of trauma, across mediums and personal backgrounds. This breaks from much work in trauma studies, which often focuses on military veterans and survivors of war. My goal is to expand the field into other disciplines, like visual art and gender studies, to explore ways to hear the silence and voice new histories. My research shows this approach challenges general trends in U.S. feminism and art history to advocate for close analysis of how race, gender, and trauma influence artistic practice. For example, most of Teresa Hapkiang-Cha's films actually exclude her own image, which were created at a time when many U.S.-based artists were using their own bodies in work. By highlighting such deviations in practice, my project identifies methods used to address U.S. histories of violence, racism, and misogyny. This is significant as healing from trauma often involves voicing one's own experience and learning from others voicing theirs. By identifying different kinds of testimonies, my dissertation reveals new ways to listen and, in turn, heal. This work is all the more pertinent given that Cha's life was ended by horrific rape and murder, which is a detail oftentimes excluded from wall labels at the museum. When it is included, the phrase rape and murder is typically used very matter-of-factly, which underlines the gravity of the violence. By reading feminist art across disciplines, we can address these kinds of limited narratives of artists and write new histories. With this, we not only get to highlight the breadth of artistry at hand, but we can also challenge the taboo nature around topics like gender-based violence and ensure the silence no longer remains unheard. By reading women's artwork through an interdisciplinary lens, I demonstrate a feminist approach to trauma studies and art history. Using this new lens, we can see how connections between artists, communities, and histories are vividly heard when we know how to listen for the silence. Thank you.
That was wonderful, Jocelyn. Thank you so much. I learned something every time on these 3 minutes. It's amazing how much you can pack in there. Thank you. Presenter number 2, we have Sricharan Vituri. So from the Mechanical Engineering Department of Engineering and Applied Sciences, Sricharan has the unique ability to speak 5 different languages. What's more unique is he's watched Batman Dark Knight 72 times. I don't know how you found time to write this between watching all the Batman, but I'm looking forward to hearing it. His topic, non-invasive imaging biomarkers for risk stratification of brain aneurysms. If you're ready, set, pitch.
Did you know that 1 in 50 people in the United States alone has a brain aneurysm? A brain aneurysm is a balloon-like structure that's formed in the vessels of your brain. And like a balloon, this can eventually grow and explode or rupture, which can cause permanent disability or even death. However, only 3 to 5% of these ever actually rupture, suggesting that if you were to treat all the aneurysms that come your way, you'll probably do more harm than good, because the treatment procedure itself has risks too. Currently, the doctors decide which aneurysms to treat primarily based on the size of the aneurysm, assuming that like a balloon, the larger aneurysms are going to rupture soon. But studies have shown that more than 20% of all the aneurysms that do rupture are in fact small aneurysms. Hence, the size alone is not enough. You need something a bit more concrete to help the doctors decide which aneurysms they want to treat. Recently, a phenomenon called vessel wall enhancement has emerged as a potential solution to this problem. Vessel wall enhancement is a phenomenon wherein the doctors inject dye or contrast into your brain vessels. And this contrast is picked up by different parts of your brain vasculature in different proportions. This actually signifies which aneurysms are actually growing or which remain relatively stable. This, however, is currently viewed on mere 2D slices, suggesting that it's very difficult to understand this phenomenon. And doctors kind of find it hard to agree with each other on what's happening there. Imagine you're a pilot and you're looking at the 2D map of the world. Although all the information about the countries and oceans is present, it's not until you look at the 3D globe that you get a really good understanding of the curvature of the Earth and the best way to get from location A to location B. My thesis focuses on taking the information stored in these 2D MRI scans and transforming it into 3D vessel structures as shown in the figure over here. Additionally, we also provide a heat map or a color-coded map which signifies how much of this contrast is absorbed by different parts of the cerebral vasculature. Additionally, this is also a 3D structure, which gives additional insight and understanding into this phenomenon in 3D space to the doctors, helping them agree with each other a bit more. But that's not all. I also use pattern recognition to look at this distribution and provide insight into whether it's a high-risk aneurysm or a low-risk aneurysm, thus helping the doctors a bit more in their decision. Ultimately, the goal of my project is to help doctors provided with a tool which can be used as a bedside tool, which they can use readily to make immediate and informed decisions and help save lives across the globe. Thank you.
Presenter number 3, Hannah Chalkins. Hannah comes from us from the Department of Molecular Pharmacology and Cancer Therapeutics, and she's currently at Roswell Park for Comprehensive Cancer Center. Fun fact about Hannah, she actually hates all fruits that start with the letter P. Upon reading that, it really threw me for a loop. I started to think of what fruits begin with P, and I quizzed her. Pineapple, pears, all of which aren't on her list of things she eats. Her title for today's presentation is Combating Treatment Resistance in Lung Cancer. Hannah, if you're ready, set, pitch.
Lung cancer is one of the most commonly diagnosed cancers in the world and is the deadliest, which is why I'm working every day to find cures for these patients. Lung cancer can go undiagnosed for a long time, especially in people that are not smokers. This non-smoking patient population isn't typically screened for lung cancer, so therefore, when their cancers finally do get diagnosed, they are in late stages and these patients are in dire need of effective treatment options. So when a patient comes into the clinic with lung cancer, doctors can specifically identify what's causing their lung cancer by identifying mutations in the cancer cells. They can then give a targeted therapy to specifically kill these mutated cancer cells. So in my slide, this is analogous to identifying the color of the cancer cells and giving the same colored treatment. So for example, blue cancer cells get blue targeted therapy. Now targeted therapy is effective for anywhere from 1 to 2 years in patients, but unfortunately, there are no curative options. Over time, all patients will relapse and their cancer will grow even in the presence of the targeted therapy. This is what we call treatment resistance. This treatment resistance occurs when the cells have now gained new mutations that allow them to grow in the presence of the therapy. So for example, in my slide, the cells have now taken on a red color. We know that these red resistant cells are different from the original blue responsive cells, but it's unclear why and it's unclear how to treat them. We can think of this in the same way that we think of the flu every year, how the strains of the flu are always mutating and always changing, which makes developing new vaccines more difficult. So in order to find new therapy options for these patients, we need to understand what's causing the treatment resistance in order to find new ways to kill these cancer cells. And this is where my thesis work begins. My thesis project is focused on understanding treatment resistance with the ultimate goal of providing new therapy options for patients. In my work, I have compared the red treatment-resistant cells with the blue treatment-responsive cells and found that a major difference between the two is the higher expression of a gene called BRD9 in the resistant cancer cells. We believe that the higher expression of this gene, BRD9, in the resistant cancer cells is what's causing their red color, or causing them to grow and survive even in the presence of the targeted therapy. Through this discovery, we have been able to apply a specific BRD9 targeted therapy to these resistant cancer cells and have killed more than 60% of the cells. We are currently furthering this work by utilizing the BRD9 targeted therapy in mice. We are hoping to see that this is both safe and effective, furthering the rationale for use in patients. By understanding what contributes to treatment resistance and how these cells differ, we can give hope to lung cancer patients facing no other treatment options. My work into BRD9 targeted therapy shows both exciting and promising results and may just be the key to getting lung cancer into remission once again. Thank you.
Very nice, Hannah. Folks, so far you've had trauma, aneurysms, cancer, and you're learning about all of this. If you're not inspired by what you're hearing up here, if you're not learning, you're not listening. I'm loving this, guys. So, next, presenter number 4, Hamid Khourasani. Hamid comes from our Department of Civil, Structural, and Environmental Engineering. Fun fact about Hamid, 3 months ago, after having a brain stroke, he was able to run a 5K in 25 minutes. Phenomenal. And if for those of you who don't run like myself, I was informed that's very, very fast. Hamid, his research is titled The Search for Sewage in U.S. Rivers and Lakes. Hamid, if you are ready, set, pitch.
Did you flush the toilet after using it today? If so, stay with me, because I'm going to explain why I care and why you should care too. Did you know the tap water you use for drinking and cooking could have chemicals that are excreted from somebody else's body? And we have no regulations for many of those chemicals. Rivers start their journeys as pristine water resources, but as water moves downstream, it receives more and more pollution. Downstream cities and local environment is more prone to using polluted water. Humans consume a wide variety of pharmaceutical and medicines. Although our bodies digest and break down those chemicals, a fraction of them is excreted from our body into the sewage. Personal care and cleaning products are no different, and they end up down the drain in the sewage too. The Environmental Protection Agency of the US has a list of hundreds of contaminants of emerging concern. These contaminants are not regulated, but we know they can be toxic to aquatic environment and human health. The conventional wastewater treatment plants are unable to effectively remove most of these contaminants of emerging concern, so a fraction of them ends up in the rivers with the wastewater effluent. In my research, I'm trying to find the hotspots of effluent contamination in US rivers and lakes, where and when rivers are highly polluted with wastewater effluent. I am using caffeine as an indicator for the presence of effluents, because they are the most widely used pharmaceutical by humans. Although rational consumption of caffeine is not problematic, we are all familiar with caffeine toxicity. Now imagine the local environment and the fish that live in water that is constantly polluted with caffeine, how their body is put under pressure. I am using a state-of-the-art hydrologic model, which is developed by the Department of Energy to track the wastewater effluents as they are released into the environment. Without knowing it, you are probably consuming chemicals that are excreted from somebody else's body. And currently, we do not have regulations for that. My work helps regulators manage what you drink. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Hamid. Well done. We won't deduct points for the fact that now you made me self-conscious of drinking my 4 cups of coffee every day, but I appreciate that. Well done. Presenter number 5, Maria Amir. From the Department of Global Gender and Sexuality Studies, Maria has a title of Finding Jugni, a Sufi mapping of Mera Jism, Mary Marzi for Pakistani's Arat marches. That is a mouthful. I apologize. You're going to have to correct me when you give your 3-minute thesis here. Fun fact, many years ago, she used to train dancing horses in Pakistan. I'd love to know more about that. I'll save that for another 3 minutes, but if you're ready, set, pitch.
Witches, blasphemers, sluts, whores, foreign-funded CIA agents. These are just some of the things that Pakistani feminists are called every single day. According to the 2021 Global Gender Index report, Pakistan is ranked as the 4th worst country in the world for women to live in. And since 2018, thousands of Pakistani women have been taking to the streets every single March 8th to celebrate International Women's Day under the banner of the Audit March, or the Women's Marches. They sing, they dance, they chant, they bear slogans and placards that call out how Pakistan's deeply patriarchal system affects them personally. This is a system that is based and rooted in family honor, religious honor, and national honor being located along women's bodies. So it's not an exaggeration to say that the audit marches have become a national problem because Pakistan's women are seldom seen in public spaces, let alone seen singing and screaming in droves. Every year before the audit march, a few months before, the state's machinery, that includes the media and the clergy, launch a campaign of threats and abuse against the organizers of the march as well as the protesters. And most recently, those threats have taken the form of blasphemy allegations that have forced many women to have to seek asylum outside of the country. They have taken the form of rape threats and death threats and stoning of actual participants in the marches. So it's not an exaggeration to say that the women who are marching in these audit marches are literally marching for their lives. The reason the audit marches matter to me is because I've worked as a human rights journalist in Pakistan for 12 years. I've taught courses on gender, and I know how deeply entrenched our patriarchy is and how it controls women's movements, their minds, and their voices. So in short, I am a Pakistani woman, and this is deeply personal for me. The reason my research matters is because the biggest accusation that is hurled at the audit marches is that they are Western and they are against Pakistani culture. And I hope to show through my research that Pakistan's marches, the audit marches, are deeply rooted in our indigenous culture, and South Asian indigenous culture is based on resistance, and it is based on women expressing their anger and reclaiming their bodies. So 4 days from now, when our women are marching, I hope to show that those women are doing so by reclaiming a local legacy. They are fire made flesh. They are what we call jugnis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Well done. Next up, presenter number 6, Bita Nasiri. Bita comes from the Chemical and Biological Engineering Department, and fun fact, she actually has 2 fun facts. One is she loves taking photos, and she has over 1 million photos that if you're sitting there on a Friday night looking for something to do, she's happy to walk you through those. And fun fact number 2, she loves making hilarious sentences out of serious situations, finding humor in everything. Her 3MT presentation is titled Cell-Free Vascular Grafts That Grow with the Host. Beta, if you are ready. Ready? Yes.
Before that, I think this is the wrong one because I update that one. This is right, but the first one was something different. But okay.
Perfect. Sounds good. If you're ready.
Yeah.
Ready, set, pitch.
One of the happiest moments in life is when a baby is born. Imagine yourself as a parent, happily expecting your beautiful baby to come into this world and holding them for the first time. I'm sure all of you here imagine this moment in a perfect health. But what if it was not? What if doctors inform you that your baby is diagnosed with congenital heart disease and needs multiple surgeries to survive? This is the reality for lots of parents in the US where congenital heart disease, known as CHD, affects 40,000 newborns annually. Babies with CHD are born with defective vessels, causing several complications as blood does not flow properly from heart to the rest of the body. In severe cases of CHD, surgical intervention needs to be performed immediately after birth to replace these defective vessels with an artificial one. However, these artificial vessels cannot grow with an infant as they get older. So, until reaching adulthood, these babies need multiple surgeries to replace this artificial vessel with a larger one. Besides huge expenses, this will bring a childhood full of scars, pains, and this is the life that we are going home means until the next surgery next time. So what can we do to overcome this challenge? That's what my thesis is all about. My research is centered around developing artificial vessels coated in proteins act as a supportive framework to attract the cells from blood. These cells later grow in number and change into different types of cells that naturally exist in our own blood vessels. The initial artificial vessel slowly breaks down in following months, letting the new vessel to form and grow. To see how these artificial vessels works in body's environment, they were implanted in lamb's cardiovascular system, which is similar to babies. My findings demonstrated after 6 months, which is equivalent to 5 years in human, these artificial vessels grow in both length and diameter. This growth ability of these artificial vessels is fascinating because they can serve as a permanent replacement for the defective vessels and eliminates the need of repetitive surgeries starting from birth. This would alleviate surgery's cost, but most importantly, this will put an end to constant pain and fear both parents and the baby experience with each surgery. This would be a seedling of hope, offering a chance of living a normal, functional life. Thanks.
Well done. Thank you very much. Presenter number 7, we have Danielle Lewis. Danielle comes from us from the Educational Leadership and Policy Department in the School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. Her 3MT thesis will be, Can Men Faculty Allies Help Improve the Representation of Women in STEM? Fun fact about Danielle, she's a lifelong Bills Mafia member. Go Bills. Danielle, if you're ready, set, pitch.
Based on what we hear in popular media about efforts in K-12 and higher education to get more girls and young women to consider careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, which I'm going to refer to as STEM, if you were to walk into an engineering class or a computer science lab, you might imagine that you'll see something like the images on the left-hand side of the screen. But I am here to tell you that this perception is not reality. Women earn 60% of all bachelor's degrees, but only 35% of degrees in STEM are awarded to women. Now, research tells us that the causes of this low number are directly related to gender. Sexual harassment, social exclusion, a lack of peers and mentors that women can relate to, and unwelcome climates all negatively impact their experience and make it more difficult for women to actually be successful in these majors. And while men are the dominant majority in STEM, efforts to create change and work towards gender parity often focus solely on changing women. Now, I know this is the case because for several years, I managed UB's Women in Science and Engineering program, and the goal of that program was to recruit and retain women in these majors. And I found that more often than not, what I heard from the women in the program was them talking about how their experience was impacted by the men in their programs. But men were rarely, if ever, involved in these conversations, which made me wonder, if men allies, so men actively advocating for women, if they could use their position in the majority to actually advocate for change within their STEM disciplines, what would that look like, and how would it impact the experience of women in STEM? Research tells us that faculty have a significant impact on their students, on their academic performance and their retention. And that influence is even more profound when it happens with underrepresented students like women in STEM. And so my research explores the perceptions, the motivations, and the experience of men faculty allies for women in STEM, with the hope that we can understand their experience better so that we can leverage their position within the majority and their willingness to help affect disciplinary change in culture. Now you might be thinking, I'm not a woman in STEM, how does this affect me? Well, I'm going to tell you. 64% of all women in this country are either the primary or the sole provider for their families. Folks who work in STEM earn on average $30,000 more per year than non-STEM workers. Higher wages result in better quality of life and a decreased reliance on government assistance, which could free up funds for things like education and infrastructure. Diversity of thought spurs innovation, and when more of us are around the table as we try to solve the world's problems, we develop better solutions, and that benefits us all. Finally, it's the right thing to do to create equal opportunities for all people. I believe my research is going to help us shift the perception of what STEM looks like to what we hope to see, which is more women in these disciplines. Thanks.
Thank you, lovely. Up next, presenter number 8, Mahasweta Bhattacharya. Close enough, sorry. Coming from us from the Biomedical Engineering Department, we have a 3MT presentation title called Decrypting the Brain, Quest for Smarter Machines. Something you may want to know, one day she hopes to meet Leonardo DiCaprio. She's an avid fan, aren't we all? And if you notice by her socks, she is a big Harry Potter fan, so she is still waiting for her letter for Hogwarts. UB is a good choice, though, regardless. If you are ready, set, pitch.
Do you wonder how we interact with nature? What helps us to learn or perceive? If you have guessed the brain, you guessed it right. Our brain is a mysteriously fascinating organ. It has billions of cells working together as a team, constantly sending informative signals to different body parts. Besides, it also learns and reprograms itself over a lifetime, forming new memories for us to revisit. And all this while, the brain consumes minimal energy. So you can consider that our brain is like a super efficient and energy efficient computer. Speaking of which, how are the modern computers doing these days? With each day, we require machines with faster processors and more robust memories. But unfortunately, such machines incur a lot of energy. Today, any top-of-the-line supercomputer will easily incur energy bill of around $6 to $7 million per year, leaving behind a significant amount of carbon footprint. Now that begs the question, what if we have computers which are super powerful and energy efficient and just like the brain will learn from the world around, form memories and teach itself the most optimized solutions to problems? That's what motivates my research. In my research, I study how the brain learns and mediates our behavior. And I decrypt the behavioral information from the brainwaves of animals. What do? We train mice to learn a new skill, and while they are learning, I study how the brain is changing and reconfiguring itself by improving the mouse performance over time. And I use some computational tools these days which are very popularly known as machine learning. It's not intimidating. It is just some computational tools which can learn a system behavior by studying the patterns in the data. And understanding this mysterious brain is very crucial to build the kind of super powerful brain-inspired, energy-efficient machines we want. And their applications, there are many. For example, a neurological patient or a person who just lost a limb. We can build smart prosthetic devices for him to help him get back to normal life. We can have smart surgical robotics to perform even the complex surgeries with precision, smarter drones for climate studies, or even smarter robotics for home improvement. Thus, as you see, that my research answers the question that we have in every day of our life. And as we move on this quest for smarter machines, we mustn't shed our responsibilities. So here I am trying to do my part to build a cleaner and smarter world for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Emily Bolas-Peck, who is going to come from us from our History Department of College's Art and Sciences. Emily's going to talk about proto-psychiatry and lunatic hospitals, diagnostic madness in 18th century London. Very exciting title. Some fun facts: big video gamer, big fantasy novel, and likes dogs. What else can you want? If you are ready, set, pitch.
The pandemic has changed how we interact with our world, and it's impacted mental health. A quick show of hands, who here struggled or knows somebody that really struggled with how the pandemic first changed daily life? A lot of us, most of us. I think it's easier to talk about this a lot of times because we know that our entire community has undergone a similar struggle. And as a response, we've seen a rise in online mental health communities. Virtual therapy increased 63-fold from 2019 to 2020. So as a medical historian, it got me thinking, is the pandemic an anomaly, or is there actually a history where mental health care developments have been influenced by communities in crisis? So my research wanted to look at the origins of our systems of psychiatric care. And to do this, I needed to go all the way back to 18th century England, really the foundation of American colonial medicine. And I stumbled upon something that really piqued my curiosity. Centuries ago, London had one asylum called Bedlam, and records revealed that they kept rejecting applicants they would diagnose as incurable, because incurables required indefinite care and they had little hope of recovery. This diagnosis became a death sentence, and their displacement became inescapable. With nowhere to go, incurables were homeless, destitute, and many died on the city's overcrowded streets. And like the pandemic, the entire community struggled with these consequences. But interestingly, London philanthropists also noticed the community struggle, and they began asking Londoners what they felt the community in the city needed. And soon in the 1700s, new independent hospitals emerged throughout London, ones that will admit the incurable. And public support is so strong, these hospitals cannot keep up with the number of applicants that they receive. Now, it might not seem like it, but this research actually pertains to all of us. Because whether we're talking about 18th century hospitals or we're talking about current pandemic responses, we're seeing that mental health care developments were and largely remain community-driven, and that this is most evident when a community undergoes a collective trauma, because it pushes those with power, wealth, and influence to produce necessary changes that end up being long-term because they're backed by public support. I find this incredibly inspirational because it shows that we as a collective have more influence over our medical landscapes than we've often been led to believe. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, we have Judy Liu, who's talking about novel configured core shell supported three-way catalyst. Judy shared with me before here that back in her hometown, Taiwan, she would take motorcycle rides for about 3 hours just to see about a half an inch of snow. She assured me now that her time in Buffalo, she will no longer be taking those rides. She has had enough. Judy, coming from Chemical and Biological Engineering Department. Judy, if you are ready, set, pitch.
Okay, I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever had this experience when you are driving a car or when you are walking on the street, then a truck passed by, leaving you a very bad smell? I believe the answer is yes. So what is that? It actually comes from the tailpipe of the vehicle, which we can understand as the sleep of non-used diesel on the truck. But what exactly it is? Actually, it composed of the carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, and hydrocarbons. And none of these are good for our health. So you may say, okay, fine, I drive a gasoline car, it doesn't smell that bad. But the truth is, even the car you're driving, it may at least emit some of these harmful gases, you just don't smell that. So in order to get rid of these harmful gases, a catalytic converter is used in all the vehicles, including the ones we are driving every day. So ideally, after these harmful gases pass through this catalytic converter, they are converted to the carbon dioxide, nitrogen, or water, and all of this are not as good for us, not harmful for our health. But again, it's ideally. So in the real scenario, a catalytic converter uses a material called ceria, which you can see in the yellow color, but this material is not durable. Or in other words, this ceria degrade, or you can say overusage, it just lost its function. So what we end up is that we will going back to the world from the left-hand side, or we can take alternative that we have to replace our catalytic converter from our car frequently, and this is pricey. I believe nobody will love that. So my job here is to develop this material by covering the not durable ceria by this zirconia you see in the blue color. By doing that, we are able to improve the durability of this catalytic converter. So in our lab aging, which simulates 75,000 mileage of the vehicle driving, we see this catalyst actually is able to convert more harmful gases than the conventional ceria itself over the whole period of time. So I believe from my research, I can bring the world from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. Or in the point of budget, I can save you money because you don't have to change your catalytic converter as frequently. So thank you for listening to my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed these presentations as much as I did. With that, we have finished all 10, and our judges now will step outside and begin the judging process and start to tally. Before they go, though, I'd like to just give a round of applause to all of our participants as they did a phenomenal job. So please join me. Judges, I believe we were going to direct you in the back room to start the process there. Thank you. We're not done, though. By any means, we're not done. We still have the People's Choice Awards here. So remember, everyone in the audience, both in person and virtual, has the opportunity to be a part of this voting for the best job here for communicating your research. You're going to see a QR code there. Please take out your phones, your tablets, your laptops, any device that can get you on that website to vote. Scan it now. Please note that it's only one vote per person. The website's going to take you directly to the voting, and it will show up on the screen on the stage just here. Please enter in your votes, and staying with the theme of the 3-minute thesis, we will start the clock, and you will have 3 minutes now to cast your votes. And the clock will begin now. Ladies and gentlemen, our judges have been back. They have deliberated. They have told me it was the hardest decision they've ever made. But we do have the announcement of the winners here. So it's my pleasure at this time, I'd like to welcome back Graham Hamill, Vice Provost for Academic Affairs and Dean of the Graduate School. He will present the awards. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil, and I'd like to invite Provost Weber to join me on stage to congratulate today's winners. I'll call the name of the third award winner, the second award winner, the first award winner, and finally the People's Choice winner. And as I call your name, please come to the stage to receive your award, which is going to be a giant check. And please stay on stage for a photograph. just stay on stage. There are spots marked for you on stage. So the third place award winner is Danielle Lewis, an examination of men's faculty allies for undergraduate women in STEM. Our second place award winner is Hamid Khorasani, The Search for Sewage in U.S. Rivers and Lakes. And our first place award winner is Emily Bolus Peck, Communal Trauma and the History of Mental Health Care Systems. And our People's Choice Award winner is Hannah Calkins, Combating Treatment Resistance and Lung Cancer. Please join me in congratulating all of our winners and really everybody who presented today. Really terrific. So thank you to our judges, our MC, to you, the audience, for joining us here in person and live streaming today. And I would just say after the live stream ends, I would invite the judges, the MC, and participants to pick up a UB cookie on the way out. Thank you very much.